To remove the stator of the timing plate, just use a 10mm socket or a Phillips screwdriver and take off that screw, and that screw down there.
Now I remove this bracket that holds the clutch or the clutch cable and the stator wires down. Goes under that bolt right there. And then I'm going to remove this one right here and take off that bracket. Now after you get that bracket out, the clutch linkage just pops out. Then there's a washer and a grommet. Now you can pull the shift linkage out. And then if you want to, you can pop off this clip right here and pull off the gear, but it's not needed if you're going to split the cases. I'll pull off these two screws right here and these two screws right here.
Now we've got those two brackets removed that go in those 4 holes right there. In order to get this nut here loose, the manual recommends that with the clutch basket still on there, to wedge a rag into the gears to stop the gears from moving, and then crack the nut loose with that. It's a 24mm nut. What I did, since I'm replacing the crank and the rods and all that, I'm not worried about damaging them, so what I did was I just put a pipe through the 2 connecting rods and then held that still and then popped this nut loose. There's the nut removed. Here's the washer. You're going to want it to go on convex. It actually is bent a little bit. The center part sticks out. You don't want it to go this way. You actually want it to go this way. And there's your primary drive gear, which slides off, and then there's a key right here that holds that in place. Now as far as the case bolts go, the manual recommends loosening them all 1/4 to 1/2 turn and then take them all out. I believe that's so that the case doesn't get warped. So all these bolts that hold the case together, you're going to want to loosen them all 1/4 turn and then take them all out. After you get those bolts loosened on top, there's going to be 8 bolts on the bottom you have to loosen right there. I believe they're 12mm.
I laid the bolts out in the order that I took them out in a circular pattern. So that one goes on the left in the middle, above that, in the middle of the top, to the right of that, below that, and then that little one goes in the middle. And there's the cases split. One thing you want to make note of on the crankshaft bearing here, there's a little metal piece that sticks out. That actually needs to go into this hole right here to keep that bearing from spinning. You got your 2 crankshaft seals on each side with your half. So there's the crankshaft removed. You can see where the rod was hitting the bottom of the case there. You can't actually really feel it with your finger. It's more so a cosmetic thing than anything else. But you got your half moon clip on this side right there. That goes on the middle. On the outside is going to be the seal for the crankshaft right there, and then you got another seal on the other side right there. There's your flywheel key. If that gets sheared, you'll still have spark, but the spark won't happen at the right time. So just because you have spark doesn't mean that spark isn't the problem, because you don't have timing. So if that flywheel key gets sheared, then that's the problem that you'll have. Also, same thing with that end bearing on the middle bearings. You got those 2 little parts that stick out right there, and those actually are going to go in the top half of the case, not the bottom half of the case. It's going to meet up on the top, not on this half, but on the other half there's going to be 2 holes where those 2 can line up. So basically for the transmission, it just pops out. You got a full clip right there on that bearing with your gears that slide back and forth. Then you got your front fork, and then you got your second part of your transmission with your seal on the end. That's where your sprocket mounts. And then you got a half moon here, and then you got a half moon here, so 1 for each side. There's your shift drum, your shift forks, Your shift forks can be put in wrong, so make sure that they're reinstalled correctly. If you do pull it out, it's just this clip right here and this clip right here, and then they both slide out after you remove this nut and these two. Then the two rods that hold in your shift forks will slide out and your forks will come out. And then for the middle part, you just pull that off,